वही है, सेम। कल का अच्छा था, कोई बात नहीं। Good morning, guys. Good. So, yesterday everyone went and revised. How many of you guys got a book, topic wise? Anyone solved any questions regarding interstate relations? 1% did. Others? Yet to buy the book. You can always Google online. Google also gives you a, good search results. So you have put a date, a muhurta, to get the book or to start solving. Mahashivratri. Or today is also a good auspicious day, no? Valentine's Day. Choose UPSC as your Valentine. I can see half the people are absent today. Huh? Choose UPSC as your Valentine. Gift yourself a book. Anyways, so yesterday, hope everyone got an understanding. I just wanted to know, should I increase the pace a bit more? Or is the pace okay? Okay. In the front, in the back? Okay. We can continue. Okay. Before I start, let me see how much you guys have revised. I trust my students, they would have revised. Right? Now, if the parliament wants to make a law on a state subject and they request the Rajya Sabha, what will the Rajya Sabha do? Pass a resolution. With what kind of majority? 2/3 present and voting. And the resolution is valid for 1 year or 6 months. Any law made based on that resolution is valid for 6 months. How many times you can renew the resolution? Any number of times. Good. Good. And we had even began with administrative relations. In administrative relations, what all did we cover? What all did we cover in administrative relations? One, let's say, center state, state center, and parliament and center. Isn't it? We covered this. Now, center can assign any functions that it has to the state only with the consent of the state, right? State can assign it to the center with the consent, and parliament? No consent. Yes. Then we saw mechanisms. One was interstate, reverse, where you can set up. Yes, the parliament can set up tribunals. Tribunals are alternative forms of dispute redressal. Just want to ask this. Yesterday I spoke about a concept called arbitration because in the top class I had spoken, but they didn't understand the differences between arbitration and mediation. So, do you guys understand the difference between arbitration, mediation, conciliation, and negotiation? Most of you guys are reading Hindu newspaper, isn't it? Almost everyone is reading Hindu newspaper. I know some people are not reading any newspaper. See, when you're reading newspaper, especially Hindu, it is more of a judiciary oriented newspaper. When you say Hindu, they cover more of judiciary related matters that no other paper covers actually. But whereas when you come to legislative and legislative work, I would suggest Indian Express, executive work, Economic Times. But don't need of Economic Times for people who don't have the optional political science and public administration. People who have an optional of political science, public administration, please read Economic Times because you get a lot of examples. But for others, I would suggest on the legislative matters, read Indian Express. On the judicial matters, read Hindu. That's how you go about. Hindu you read regularly anyway. You guys are doing R&D on Hindu every day. Continue with your R&D on Hindu, but try to bring it down to 45 minutes. As I told yesterday, you guys were telling 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Don't waste your time too much on that. Because you have a lot of other things to study. Static part is there. Prelims is coming and you need to revise. On newspaper only, if you waste 2 hours, it's difficult. Anyways, coming to Hindu, you read only try to focus more on the judicial aspects and Indian Express, the legislative and executive aspects. If you have an optional of public administration or political science, go with Economic Times. You get very, very good examples. Right? Anyways, now I was speaking about these terms. Arbitration, mediation, conciliation, negotiation. Who can tell me the differences between these words? Any law student, Joya? No law students? No lawyers? All accountants only? CAs? Engineers are there? Yesterday I asked, no one lifted their hand. 2, 3. I asked doctors. How many engineers are there? Proud of you guys. How many accountants? I mean CAs or commerce students? Friend. Rest? You need to have a degree to write the exam. Others. Right? So, if any law students were there, they would be able to explain. See, in the case of arbitration, you have to understand arbitration is a place where two parties are there. Always there will be two parties in a conflict. The judge sits as the third party, and the judge is not a party to any of these. Like he is not supporting any of them. He sees the laws, he gives his verdict, and both have to abide by it. Now, whenever the judge quotes a law, as we have said, he starts quoting it based on particular acts, sections, or legislations, isn't it? The judge cannot quote what he likes. Today, if he feels like, okay, my wife has scolded me, today I'll give life imprisonment for this. He can't take out his frustration. What happens at home, he can't take it out in the court. He has to quote particular provisions. Why I am giving this judgment? Based on section 498, section 494, whatever it is. Based on this, 7 years imprisonment I have to give, I am giving. He can't arbitrarily tell, okay, today this fellow 10 years, tomorrow 5 years. He can't do that. He quotes based on laws. When you come to mediation, what happens? These 4 processes are frequently mentioned in your Hindu newspaper, and you should know about this. What is mediation? Arbitration also compromise only, no? Judge will tell, it's not a compromise, you have to follow. In mediation, okay, I'll explain. Anyway, these concepts are new to you. See, in mediation, what happens is, again, 2 parties will be there. There will be a third party. Now, the third party will start giving solutions. And it is dependent on both the parties to agree to the solutions. If both the parties do not agree to the solutions, then it gets dismissed. Then mediation fails. Generally, mediation happens a lot in family courts, right? In family courts, mediation happens a lot. War only happens in mediation. When they start listening to both the parties' grievances, finally the mediator will be caught in between the fights and he'll get nice thrashings. That's what happens in family courts. But yeah, mediation. Another good example is like if you guys have read Mahabharata, Krishna is a very good mediator. They tell Krishna goes to mediate between Pandavas and Kauravas. And if you see that process of mediation, what does he do? First he says, give kingdom, give all those. He'll keep asking the Kauravas. Finally, what he'll tell? Give 5 villages. What the thing you have to observe here is the mediator comes out with solutions. Mediator comes out with solutions. He keeps proposing solutions between the parties. This is called as mediation. When you come to conciliation, what happens? Same thing, two parties are there, but the third party, he doesn't sit and give the solutions. He tries to encourage both the parties to give solutions. Right? He says, okay, this is not happening. What will you do? What will you do? He just has to ensure both the parties don't hit each other. In the case of conciliation. Right? There's a huge difference because when you're reading newspapers, they're speaking about conciliatory centers, they're speaking about mediation centers. You should know what is happening over there. When I say a mediation center, now you know you need what kind of a person do you need over there to sit as a mediator? A person who can bring solutions, provide solutions. And when you come to a conciliation center, what kind of a person do you need? Person who can handle people from, who can diffuse tensions over there. You need not give solutions. You should just ensure that they both come to a solution. Right? So qualifications change. And next one is negotiation. You don't need a third person. It happens between two parties. Right? So this is subtle differences, but you should know because in newspapers they have been mentioning this. I got to know that most of them didn't know in the upper class. So I'm just mentioning it to you guys. Anyways, coming back to this, let's come back to this. Now, interstate rivers, and which was the other mechanism we studied? Interstate council. What does it do? Coffee pe charcha? Chai pe charcha? I come from the land of coffee, that's why I keep saying coffee pe charcha. Right? Then, trade and commerce. Trade and commerce. Now, which has not been set up still now, we even started discussion about All India services. Right? Now, in the case of All India services, we saw that recruitment and appointment happens through UPSC, isn't it? Recruitment happens through UPSC, and then appointment happens through DOPT. Let me tell you one thing, getting a rank doesn't mean you'll get a post. Be very clear on that. Just because you got a rank, it doesn't mean you'll get a post. No, there are many situations have come. I'll tell you the example of my friend. One attempt, he got 900 odd rank. He didn't get the post. Because what he had done is he had written with the partial disability. He had filed under partial disability, and especially for people who are writing with partial disability, you need to be very careful because there are only limited posts for them. Only 8 or 10 positions are there. If there are already 8 to 10 people who have got rank, in the upper like 100s, 200s, 300s, then even though you get a rank, you won't get a post. Not only for disabled, for some other people also, with respect to wrong filing of reservation. If you're not a OBC, like you'll have income high, your parents will have income high, they would have concealed it. They get to know. Don't think UPSC won't come and look. UPSC in the sense IB won't come and look. DOPT always keeps sending these applications to IB. Many people have been rejected And if you get rejected in OBC, if your marks is in general merit score, then you might have a chance. Else, gone. And again, you'll have to repeat. People get rank. After rank, many people don't get post. Every year, almost 15 to 20 people, they don't get post. Especially disabled, this happens a lot. So be careful. That is why. Because for my friend, what happened is he got a rank. He came, in TV, everywhere, interview, everything he gave. Finally, no position. 1 year he went underground until he got a new rank. And this time he gave it with OBC. He got through, and yeah, now he's an IAS officer. But yeah, literally the face, you can't show your face. After getting a rank, you don't get a position. People will be, where is your position? Where is your job? When you say still not got, suddenly people will change. Anyway, coming back to this. So, and all India services can be created. How? When Rajya Sabha passes a resolution to do so. Isn't it? So what we find in all India services is, though it's a center state managed service, you find that the orientation is more towards the center. Center has more say. It might be in terms of appointment, recruitment, pay, all these matters, conduct, discipline, removal, all these matters, center has a say. Center frames the law, rules and regulations, right? So they are highly oriented towards the center, right? Coming to, all India services right now, how many all India services we have? How many all India services we have? 3. For the exam you are writing is 3, but only 3 services we have. Then, is there any additional services? Actually, many services has been created. Indian Health Service, all this were created, but they have not been operationalized properly. Some they started to operationalize, again it got stuck, all that. And right now there is a huge demand for Indian Judicial Service. You want to bring competition in Indian Judicial Service. There are, they are speaking about all Indian Judicial Service. It has been in news from 3, 4 years, not even 3, 4, 5, 6 years. AIJS, right? Because you see, today, as I told you, you should visit some courts. You'll understand what is happening. The judges simply lack the competency at the district level. High Court judges are competent, Supreme Court judges are competent, but district level and below district level, municipal courts or even session courts, they simply lack the competency to deal with cases. All you need is 7 years of being an advocate, and good advocates are not taking up judges. They are not opting for judges because they are getting good revenue outside only. Good lawyers, they are not trying to become judges. They don't want to become judges because you see how much will a judge get paid? Supreme Court judge, what's his salary today? What's his salary? Somewhere around 1.2 lakhs or 1.4 lakhs. It is coming around 1.5 lakhs, right? How much does a lawyer get paid? Supreme Court lawyer, advocate. One hearing, he gets paid somewhere around 10 lakhs, 9 to 10 lakhs. For one hearing, not one complete case. For 1 year, minimum 9 to 10. Good lawyers are getting, good advocates are getting somewhere around 40 lakhs to 45 lakhs. You still want to become a Supreme Court judge. And after becoming Supreme Court judge, if you want to earn, you will earn. If you want to earn it in the other way, you can become more rich than these people. One case you resolve of any good companies, they'll gift you crores. Right? There is other ways of making money, but there is no incentive. In judiciary, there is no incentive for them. Anyways, so this All India Judicial Services is being spoken about. Even the Modi government has mooted the idea of having All India Judicial Service, but the problem is judiciary is not agreeing to it. Why? Why is the judiciary not agreeing for All India Judicial Service? Because right now, it's still a meritorious service. They are telling independence, but see, how are the judges being appointed to High Court and Supreme Courts? Collegium system. It's a opaque system, not a transparent system. What they sit and discuss, no one knows. What the records are, no one knows. It is not open to the public. It is not open to the judges itself. Only those 4 senior judges and the Chief Justice. Only they know what is happening. Who objects for whom. In that scenario, they don't want to give up that power. They don't want to give up that power because if you take all India Judicial Service, there will be a recruiting authority, they'll get appointed, and these people will immediately rise. It will be like a hierarchical chain, like how IAS officers raise to the level of secretaries, they can even become a cabinet secretary. In the same way, it will come to Supreme Court and High Court. A meritorious service gets introduced and they'll have no say. That is why there's a lot of obstruction from the judicial system in the creation of All India Judicial Service. This has been in news. You should read about this. In governance, anyway, we'll cover this when it comes to governance. Now, this is about All India services. Other aspect, since we are discussing about judiciary, in the center-state relations, the parliament has the power to create a common court for 2 states. Parliament has the power to create a common court. What do you mean by a common court? See, just because a new state is created doesn't mean that it has to have its own high court. Understand that. Just because a new new state is created, it doesn't mean they have to have their own high court. The parliament can operationalize telling that you'll have this court common for both these states. For example, Goa, does it have its own court? You guys would have visited Goa. Definitely not to see high court. Yeah. When you go to Goa, you find that there is no high court. He is very happy when I speak about Goa. Old memories resurfacing. Where did I come and fall? Today I'm sitting over here. My friends, they are recruited aram se. They are in private jobs. They are nicely going on vacations, posting photos. I am over here taking selfie with my library and posting. It's okay. Pain, suffer after 2 years. Once you get your position, once you crack the exam, then you can nicely put photos. Anyways, coming back to this, Goa and Maharashtra, they share the same High Court. Bombay High Court, there is a common court. And here, it is not the state legislatures, it is the parliament which has a say. Parliament can immediately tell, this High Court is going to be common for these 2 states. Right? Parliament has the power to keep a common high court, establish a common high court. There's a lot of disturbance, right? Parliament. It's okay now? It's okay now? Now? It's fine? Okay. You guys should voice out. You guys are going to become officers, you're sitting like that only, suffering. Huh? Sorry? Which class you had before? Which topic they covered? Battle of Plassey and Battle of Buxar. You still are experiencing the Battle of Plassey and Buxar. Many people are upset. British won. Huh? No, it's fine. You guys are still upset that the British won and we lost. Come out of it later, we'll win, no? Cinema abhi baki hai. Anyway, coming to this, Judiciary, with respect to judiciary, Parliament can create a common court. Now we'll move on to the next one, public service commissions. You find that the recruitment happens through UPSC, and the members of UPSC are appointed by center. So but UPSC not only conducts civil service examinations, it conducts a variety of examinations where even people are staffed to the state, and now they are the ones who are recruiting for the state, and state doesn't have a say because UPSC is a autonomous body or independent body. It's a constitutional body. Is it an autonomous or an independent body? It is supposed to be an independent body. Yes, because of the procedure of recruitment. Right? Because of the process of recruitment. UPSC members are recruited and appointed by the president. Right? And they can be removed only by the president. The states don't have any say. Am I audible? Yeah. The states don't have any say in this. Now, when you come to state public service commissions, they are recruited by the, they are appointed by governor, right? But they are removed by president. So again, you find that it becomes very difficult to remove people who have been appointed in state public service commissions. What is the frequency of your state government exams in Telangana? First, I'll ask Telangana. Frequently it is happening? Or yearly once, twice, or 2 years once? 4 years once. 4 years once. At least 4 years once it's happening, right? No, even it is same as in Karnataka. In Karnataka also, once in a blue moon it happens. Right? And there was this instance in Karnataka, I don't know about Telangana Public Service Commission. In Karnataka Public Service Commission, there was the chairman who got caught red-handed asking for bribe and taking bribe. You get into Public Service Commission board, nice money you can make. Properties can be given in your name. Right? Very lucrative position. IS officers get into it most often. So even he got caught, it became a very difficult task to remove him. Though he was caught red-handed because he has to be removed by the president. So they waited for his retirement period. Another 6 months was there. They didn't do any process. They didn't process the applications. Candidates had to wait until this fellow retired. Then after new chairman came only, they continued with the process. That is why this actually restricts the state from even, they have to halt even their own recruitment if there is any such problems that crops up. Now, another aspect is Joint Public Service Commission. If 2 or more states request, or even if the parliament feels, they can appoint a Joint Public Service Commission for 2 or more states. 2 or more states. Now, when they appoint this Joint Public Service Commission, the members are appointed by the president and they can be removed only by the president. The states have no say in those matters. Right? So, in the case of Joint Public Service Commission, you have this scenario where the states have no say even in the recruitment also. Right? Now, the states can even request UPSC for, there is a friendly provision, this is in center-state relations. The states can request UPSC to take up recruitment of certain exams, certain technical exams. The state can request UPSC, but it requires presidential approval. Not parliamentary approval, it requires presidential approval. Approval for recruitment. It requires presidential approval for recruitment, right? Now, this is with respect to public service commissions, center-state relations. Other aspects, there is another aspect where centers directions to state in 4 matters. Where centers directions to state in 4 matters are very, very important. First one, lines of communication. The state is bound to obey the center. The state is bound to obey the center in these 4 particular matters. If center issues any particular directions for these, they have to obey it. If they don't obey, I'll tell you what will happen once I finish with the subjects. Lines of communication. See, these are very, very important because at the time of independence, why this provision came is, at the time of independence, you needed we had telegraphic lines. We didn't have internet. All these things we didn't have. Means of communication. All we had were telephones, telegraphic lines. So what they told us, there should be constant lines of communication between the center and the state. Why is it important? Because if you don't keep informing the center what's happening in the state can always, break apart. There have been very, aspirational chief ministers there have been some aspirational chief ministers who wanted to separate from India and become a prime minister for themselves, for that particular state. All this will become possible if you don't have direct contact, lines of communication. It's very important that you keep a line of communication between the center and the state, and the center keeps knowing what is happening in the state. The center needs to be frequently updated. That is why you have the governor, but there should be this is physical lines of communication, telegraphic lines, and if center directs the state to establish telegraphic lines of communication in any particular area or in any particular office, it has to be done. Right? Right? Mic is working. It's working. It's working in the back. Okay. Now, secondly, with respect to one is lines of communication. What was it? Second one is the state has to help center in the operation maintenance of railways. The operation and maintenance of railways, the state has to ensure that they help the center. State has to be like, if the center wants to set up a new, audible? Is the mic working? Now it's working. If the center wants to set up a new railway line, then the state has to give its fullest cooperation. There has to be a full cooperation from the state. They cannot obstruct any railway lines, right? So second aspect where the center's direction to state is always valid is on railways. Third one, is for language. Third one, for language in the sense, if the center directs the state to provide for primary education in their respective mother tongues. Provide, it's not audible, is it? Now it's clear. Now if the center provides for the state, it tells the state that you have to provide education now. I think this is better. So if the center tells the state that you have to provide primary education in the respective mother tongue for other linguistic groups, see, it need not be that now in Telangana or in Andhra, primary education is mostly given in either English or Telugu. But if there is any minor languages that is present in the state, like for example, Urdu, and if the center commands the state that you should provide for education, primary education even in Urdu, then the state is compelled to give primary education in the respect to mother tongue, right? Only primary education. And the state has to obey this. The state has to obey this. There is no escaping this. Now, fourth one, scheduled tribes. If the state has any scheduled tribes, then if the center comes out with welfare policies or anything with respect to the scheduled tribes, the state has to obey. Right? The guidelines set up by the center as with respect to scheduled tribes, it has to be obeyed by the state. Now, why is this called as scheduled tribes? Why is this called as scheduled tribes? What is the scheduled tribes and scheduled castes? Why are they called as scheduled tribes and scheduled castes? This is a mains question. If you have gone back and seen your previous year questions, you would have seen it's a mains question. They have asked directly. Why are they called as scheduled tribes? What is scheduled in scheduled tribes? You're telling something or you're chanting? Yes. Yes. It's okay. Sit and tell. Tribals will. No, tribals living in forest is fine. We can just call them as tribals. What is the scheduled tribes? What is scheduled in this? Which schedule? In the 12 schedules, where is it mentioned? They are recognized by the government or parliament? Okay, they are recognized by the parliament, but what is the scheduled? How did it get the name scheduled? Schedule 6. Schedule 6 has only 4 states, but scheduled tribes are there everywhere. They are there in Telangana, they are there in Andhra. Scheduled tribes are there everywhere. What is this scheduled? Government of India Act 1935. It's covered. It's not covered. Government of India Act 1935. They didn't cover that. Or were you guys absent? From where did they begin with polity then? Don't know. They began from preamble. They didn't speak about making of the constitution, nothing. Historical background skipped. Okay. It was to be, yeah, see, certain aspects are repeated in history, polity aspects are repeated in history, economics, but there is a polity angle to it. They have to speak about that. Okay, anyway, fine. See, in Government of India Act 1935, what happens is, in history, even modern history is going on, you have not reached till 1930s, there is something called as a Pune Pact. Pune Pact was signed between Gandhi and Ambedkar to prevent reservation for not scheduled caste, backward castes and tribes, right? So what happens is the British still wants to operationalize that. They want to give reservation, and in 1935 Act they go ahead and give reservation for SCs. I mean for the backward caste. Over there they attach an annexure. They attach an annexure in the form of a schedule where they list all those castes which are to get reservation, all those tribes which are to get reservation. From there the name scheduled caste and scheduled tribes comes. From your Government of India Act 1935. Right? That name, scheduled caste and scheduled tribe comes. This has been asked in UPSC mains question. First part of the question. Second part is about tribals. For the development of tribals, what the government has been doing, how effective it has been, something of that sort the question was. But a static question comes like this. So you should know from Government of India Act 1935, the name scheduled caste and scheduled tribes have been derived. And our constitution, you can say almost 50 to 60% of the constitution is made up of Government of India Act 1935. Almost 50 to 60%. The same thing has been copy pasted. certain modifications. So, with respect to scheduled tribes, now coming back to this, scheduled tribes, any welfare policies that are initiated by the government, by the central government, the state government has to comply. Now, if the state government doesn't comply, what will happen? The state government doesn't comply. Center passes, state doesn't oblige. You have Article 365, 355, 356. I'll explain. See, Article 355, what it says is, the center has to ensure that the state government is run in accordance with the constitution. Right? Article 355 puts the responsibility on the central government to ensure that the state government is working in accordance with the constitution. Right? Responsibility has been placed. Now coming to 365, this is coercive. It says the state has to listen to the center's directions as per constitutional norms. If they don't listen, that means there is a constitutional breakdown in the state. Not just an administrative breakdown. A constitutional breakdown has happened when the center doesn't, when the state doesn't listen to the center. Now, with this reason, you can impose president's rule. Article 356 speaks about president's rule, whereby if the state doesn't comply with the center's directions, then the state government can be suspended and the center can start directing, can start issuing directions. State government in the sense, the state political executive, council of ministers will be immediately suspended and the central government can start issuing directions. Right? This is what happens if the state doesn't listen to the center with respect to these things. With respect to these things and any other parameters, wherever, so what center says the state has to follow, it has been defined. If the state doesn't listen, the center is going to use these three articles. Right? This I am telling because in mains, they have asked this question, how can the center go ahead and convince, or you can say, what happens when the center doesn't, the state doesn't listen to the center? Then you need to quote. That is why I'm putting in the article numbers. You need to remember these article numbers. 365 is a very powerful article. And even in your Hindu newspaper, frequently you will see this word, Article 365. Article 365, frequently you will see this. Because even 355, this is, it has to be in accordance with the constitution. Now, along with these four things, this also comes. All the constitutional provisions have to be implemented by the state. The center can issue these directions for anything. See, for example, Panchayati Raj systems have not been set up. You have not set up Panchayati Raj. Tomorrow I'll dismiss the Council of Ministers. You're not listening to me. Understanding the power. What's the power of this article, these three articles? The center doesn't do that. Only in extreme cases the center goes to president rule. But the center can always take even the smallest of reasons to dismiss, telling it is not running as per constitutional provisions. Right? Anyway, I think these things have been discussed in 42nd Amendment has been discussed. This Bommai case and all. No? Bommai case. SR Bommai. No. It's not been discussed. Anyway, okay. Parliament, he told I'll just brush up Parliament once by the end of the week. Now, this is one aspect, center's directions to the state. Clear with this? Now we have another role, like other small roles, like, governor. In the center-state relation, governor is one of the most important person. Why is the governor appointed by the center, or what is the purpose of having a governor? Let us go to that. What is the purpose of having a governor? Governor is done, right? Governor is done? Yes? Yes. So, what is the purpose of having a governor? Sorry? Constitutional guide. Okay. Purpose, core purpose of having a governor. Why do you think a governor is being appointed by the center? Why is he there over there? As an agent of center. Why is he there? State executive has been done? State executive has been done? Then tell me, what role does the CM do? When you speak about the relation with CM and the governor, there is one particular feature where the CM has to frequently update the governor. So what happens is, see, the governor is present. The governor is present over there to ensure that there is a frequent line of communication between the center and the state, and there is no, deviation by the state, constitutional deviation by the state in terms of threat to unity and integrity of the country. Because the chief minister is forced to frequently update the governor always has to report it to the center. They can't do anything without the consent of the governor. Governor has to sign on every rules and regulations, not just the acts and legislation. Anything is to be done, it's done in the name of the governor in the state. Because he keeps getting the complete information, it ensures that, the center is well informed and there is no threat to unity or integrity of the country. That is the main purpose of creating the governor position. Else they could have gone ahead and, appointed governor from within the state. Why the center appoints it is precisely for this reason, so that the country, the unity, territorial integrity of the country is protected. This is the core purpose of appointment of a governor. Now, but you find that governor has his discretionary powers and he frequently keeps upsetting the state governments. Who is the governor of Telangana? Sorry? Tamilisai. Okay. How is he performing? She. Okay, sorry. How is she performing? Good. Don't know. No idea. How many of you say I've seen her on newspaper? I have not seen her that. Okay, anyway, coming back to this is another aspect of center-state relations. See, administrative relations, we have other non-constitutional bodies. We do have other non-constitutional bodies, which we'll be discussing later, but I'm just mentioning it in the passing by. When we start with non-constitutional bodies, we'll discuss about zonal councils. We'll discuss about, other parliamentary forms. Extra constitutional bodies, Niti Aayog. All these come under non-constitutional bodies. That we'll discuss elaborately when we are dealing with non-constitutional bodies. Just mentioning so that in the relations, they are also a part. You have Niti Aayog. You have zonal councils. Right? Planning Commission was there, NDC was there, all those were nothing but extra constitutional bodies. We'll give a good reading to that later. First, now we'll try to finish what's there in the Constitution. Then, apart from Constitution, what else is there? We'll discuss about that. Now, moving to the next one, financial relations. Center-state financial relations. Come to center-state financial relations, first we'll begin with Article 265. What does Article 265 say? Article 265 says, no tax shall be levied without representation by law. Means, you would have heard about this term, no taxation without representation. World history is done? Completed? Yes and no. 2 batches are there? Yes, 2 batches are there. Yes or no? Okay. So, what happens in American War of Independence? 1 minute summary. What happens in American War of Independence? You find that mostly Europeans go and settle in America, and British, they start imposing taxes on the people who are there in America, all the Europeans. Finally, they rebel, they overthrow the British. That is the War of Independence. And when they're doing that, they give the slogan "No taxation without representation." That is, only people who, only representatives of the people have the power to tax, because they have to go back and answer to the people. Popular representation, mainly democracy. Only when people agree to the taxation, those taxation should be levied. Right? This is the core aspect of democracy. See, this is one thing which will actually, one of the cornerstones of democracy. If you start, suppose the government today starts levying 200%, 300% tax on petrol, what will you do? You will suffer still elections. You have no other go. You might do protests, everything, but you can't overthrow the government. You will suffer still elections. When elections come, you'll go and show this finger. Isn't it? This finger. Right? So, that is what you do to the government. Means you still have some power. That is why they say no taxation without representation. That is the power you have. That is why, based on this principle, what it says, when you see Article 265, why I am explaining this no taxation without representation is, tax can be levied only by the parliament. Tax can be levied only by the parliament, not by the executive. The executive cannot create their own tax. The government doesn't have the power to create their own tax. The government can collect, but they cannot say from today onwards, I'm going to tax this. The government cannot tell that. Only the parliament has the power for taxation. Executive only has the authority to collect taxes. Be very clear on that. That is why I said no taxation without representation. Now, along with this, we have our public treasuries. What are the treasuries that we have? 3 types. Everyone tells contingency first. Why? Everyone wants to be in emergency, yeah? Contingency fund. Ignore my handwriting. Hoping that you understand. You have 3 types of fund. Consolidated Fund of India, contingency fund, and public accounts. This is there for the center as well as for the states. What is the difference between consolidated fund and public accounts? What is the difference between consolidated fund and public accounts? What is a public account fund? Yes? What is a public account fund? Good morning only it is. It is still morning. How many of you are going out today? Today, February 14th. You guys don't know the date also. Huh? All are heartbroken people. This is like that Rockstar movie. Only darde to music niklega. Only if you have pain, you'll become an IAS officer. Any planned activities today? No. Sad life. After entering UPSC, you'll become sad for 2 years, 3 years. Hopefully, it is a short-term plan, 2 years, 3 years. Don't keep long-term plans of 5, 6 years. Right? Anyways, well, let's come back to this. What is public accounts? Please don't tell accounts of the public, because in the upper class they told what is public accounts? Accounts of the public. where public invests in government. Okay. This is the common thing I heard. Post office savings deposits. I say everyone has kept one deposit over there. See, understand the philosophy behind the creation. Consolidated fund is operationalized by whom? Who takes care of the consolidated fund? Who operationalizes? Parliament. Any amount going into the consolidated fund or coming out of it needs the permission of the parliament. Without parliamentary permission, it doesn't happen. And public accounts is taken care by the executive, the government. Public accounts it was mainly created not for the public, for the public servants. Understand that it was mainly created for public servants. Post office savings deposit, why it goes is post office is controlled by the government. Post office is a government department. You have Indian Postal Service. Yes. So it's a department based how they are raising money, and it is not revenue. It is a capital debt. It is not revenue. Post office savings deposit that you give to the government, you won't take that money back. After 20-30 years, you'll take it back with interest. You leave the government like that only, yeah. All right. Who is giving charity for government? So when you go to public accounts, it is operationalized by the government, controlled by the government. It was mainly created for public servants, because once you get recruited, you'll find that there are a lot of deductions: pension, insurance, employee association, welfare association, this, that. What's the salary of an IAS officer? What's the salary of an IAS officer? See, this is one service where even people are not concerned about the package. If they were in private, first package matters. Because in IAS later, कमा लेंगे, what is there? 3 years इधर गवा दिया, generations के लिए कमा देंगे. Only suitcase practice. Oh yeah, see, if you become IAS and one disaster happens, I told you na, extremely rich, you'll become the Adani and Ambani of the district. Right? Anyways, coming back to this, what was I asking? Yeah. What's the salary of an IAS officer? When you get recruited, probationary period, it is 30,000. 40,000, 10,000 goes for mischarge in Labasna. Effectively, you'll have 30,000 in your hand for 2 years. And after 2 years, it is 65,000. That is actually 74,000. But again, all tax, various deductions happen, and they take out 10,000, 12,000 and give it to your hand. All this 10,000, 12,000, where is it going? Public accounts. That is where the amount goes. And government, what it does is, it uses this money for public infrastructure creation, all this public works, many other government purposes, the money is used. Now the thing is, public accounts, the parliament doesn't have a say with the way the government spends it. Right? They only have a say with respect to how the government raises it. Means today if government wants money, suddenly it will come and tell to all public servants, 50% of your salary I'm taking for this scheme. What will you do? You'll increase your other rates. Right? Most of the public servants are not dependent on their salaries. Isn't it? Salary is a minuscule component of what they earn. Very minute. If government if government comes out and tells 50% I'll take, it is not, it is not going according to the law, and you feel some injustice is being done. That is why that power has been given to parliament. If the government wants to introduce any pension scheme, insurance scheme for the employees, anything like that, they need to take the permission of the parliament. Parliamentary approval is necessary. Right? Else, our government would have looted most of the public servants. They would have looted. Anyway, coming to this public accounts, even see, government can create its own companies, corporations. Is it not? There is public companies, public corporations. Many of the revenue they raise come over here. They have, again, classification is there. In economics, they'll teach you the revenue classification. Economics is done? Not started? Started, but stopped. Okay. This is done in economics. This has not been done yet. Anyway, they'll cover this in detail. See, I'm speaking the polity aspect, economic aspects, all those revenue shares, what all comes, what all schemes come, all those will be covered. Features will be covered. I'm speaking the philosophy of this. Why I'm speaking about this is next when we get into the next aspect. Where did it go? When we are speaking about the next aspect, there have been questions which have been asked. See, there are certain taxes that is collected by the center, levied and collected by the center, but it has been given to the states. For example, there is this in GST only, interstate GST, the center collects the taxes and gives it to the states. Now the center, when it collects the taxes, does it go to the consolidated fund of India? This question has been asked, that's why I'm mentioning this. When center collects the taxes, IGST, when center collects IGST, does it get deposited in the consolidated fund of India? No, it directly goes to the consolidated fund of the state, to which state it is to go, right? That is why I've been speaking. We speak a lot about consolidated fund. You should be very clear which funds are going to consolidated fund of India, which funds are going to consolidated fund of the state. Clear? Okay, now let us start with financial relations. Firstly, taxes, or let me start with states exemptions. Let me begin with states conditions. There are particular taxes. For example, first one, professional tax, which has been mentioned in the constitution, can be levied only by the state. Professional tax is levied only by the state, and the maximum amount they can levy is rupees 2,500 per year. How many of you have done a job before joining the coaching? One. Others, fresh, taza pass outs, fresh meat to UPSC. Okay, I should have done 1 year job. You would have understood how the private industry works. Anyway, hopefully you never have to see private industry. Everyone gets a government job. Now, when you are done, like when you're in the private job, when you get your salary slip, you will find that professional tax, 200 rupees, is generally levied. The state government collects the professional tax, and this is one of the only direct taxes. See, when in economics, two concepts will be introduced: direct taxes and indirect taxes, right? Most of the direct taxes are collected by the center. Most of the direct taxes are collected by the center. Only one of the limited direct taxes that are collected by the state is professional tax. There are other 2-3 taxes which they can collect, agriculture or income on that, but states don't usually resort to agricultural income. States have the authority to collect agricultural income, tax on agricultural income, but states have not been collecting. Professional tax is one of the direct taxes that they collect. Now, second part, electricity. Now, if the state gives electricity to the center, will it give electricity freely? See, electricity is needed for everything. Without electricity, life won't happen in cities. Can you live in city without electricity? No. No economic activity can happen without electricity, isn't it? All economic activities are based on electricity. You wouldn't have survived COVID without electricity, isn't it? Watching all the... Oh, most of you guys are COVID pass outs, right? No. Post-COVID pass outs. 2022 pass outs. Still you guys were affected by COVID. 1 year in college. Yeah, you guys are COVID pass outs. No. Okay. Now coming to this. So the state levies a charge on the center, right? But the state cannot levy a tax on the charge. Understand this. When you get your electricity bill, the state will levy some tariff. Uh, they'll say, okay, you have a 1,000 rupee electricity bill. Below, you would find that state levies some tax on that also. Electricity tax. The state cannot do this to the center. When state is supplying electricity to the center, it cannot levy any tax. It can levy a charge, but it cannot levy a tax for electricity. Clear? Clear? Good morning. Good afternoon, sorry. It's afternoon. Why so much of low energy in the class? When did the batch start, you say? August. September. October. August. Sorry? September. It is still only 5-6 months only, Already you're tired. You still have long journey. 1 year journey is there more. To write the exam. In 3 months everything will get decided. May 28th. May 28th everything will get decided. But still you should have some enthusiasm. I know. At least in colleges and all, 5 months you will get a vacation. 4 months, 5 months. In schools also used to get a vacation. UPSC there is no vacation. Right? Only suffocation. Coming to the next part. The state government cannot levy any taxes on exports and imports, especially when they are in transit. Even they can't levy taxes on the transitory goods. Just because a good is transiting through your state, you can't levy a tax. Just because a good is transiting through your state, you cannot levy a tax. For example, in Himachal Pradesh, if they have manufactured something and they want to export it, it will come to, let's say, Vizag port. Andhra Pradesh government cannot levy a tax on that. Right? Only in the case of exports and imports. If it's getting sold in Andhra Pradesh, then yeah, it can levy a tax. Right? This is another limitation that you have. And fourth one, river water resources. Fourth one, river water resources. Now, you find that, the center keeps creating dams. Center keeps building dams. Now the dams are built where? In states only, right? On the rivers. Now, when the center builds a dam, they will build it, they will store water, then they'll sell that water for irrigation. They'll, if they have run of the water projects, hydroelectric power plants do come up over there. Electricity is generated. All those happen, right? When those happens, the state can put a tax. The state can put a tax on the revenue earned by the center, provided presidential approval is given. Understand? On the river water resources projects, revenue generated from the river water resources, the state can put a tax on the center. The state can put a tax on the center, provided there is presidential approval. Provided there is presidential approval. right? So this is with respect to the river water resources. The next provision, fifth one, condition that you have to remember is, let us go to central property. Now, if there is center's property in the state where there are, departments, center means, see, in Hyderabad you have this National Fisheries Board, that big fish. While you are passing in that PV Narasimha Rao flyover, you can see there is a building in the form of a big fish. You guys would have seen, many would have seen, right? Right? So very creatively done, that fish. Now, definitely they'll be earning some money, boards, or you can take CBDT, Central Board of Direct Taxes. If they are present over here. Direct taxes is the one who collects your income tax. They are present in Hyderabad. They'll be earning revenue, collecting it from you guys. It's like a business. For government, it's a business, collecting revenue. Now, on the revenue collected, you can always go for taxation. It's being done in the state. That is what the condition is, right? State list, all this. That is why they tell, though the revenue is getting generated in the state, the states cannot tax that revenue. In the case of central property. In the case of central property, central is, departments are there, they are raising revenue, they are earning money. The states cannot go and tax the central property. They can't levy property tax, all these things, whatever is there. Right? The states cannot, the states cannot levy tax on central property and its earnings. Right? Now, the vice versa happens even with the state property. Vice versa happens even with the state property. The center cannot come and levy taxes on the state government. Even the state government earns revenues. The state government earns revenues. The center cannot come and impose taxes on them. Now, in both the cases, there are exceptions. This you have to understand. When the center gets into business, when the center makes corporations and companies, you have public sector undertakings, which are corporations and companies. If they earn any revenue, the state can tax. The state can tax on corporations and revenues. There are two things. There is something called as a sovereign function, and there is something called as a commercial operation. Right? There is something called as a sovereign function, and another is known as commercial operations. Commercial operations means the state getting down to do business. When the state does business, the center, when the center does business, the state can tax. Understanding? For example, you know about NTPC, National Thermal Power Corporation. What does it do? Hello? Hello? Calling from Earth. Right? What does NTPC do? I know many people are cursing. What, sir? Even on February 14th, you're eating already. Huh? It is 14th only, right? I think many people won't even know the date. Huh? What? Purva? Pulwama attack. Abba. Thank you. I got refreshed. Right? Anyway, in UP and all, especially in Western UP, curfew has been imposed. Section 144 has been imposed. Huh? Bajrang. Anyways. No, you should you should have some more liveliness in you guys. What is this? Most of your average age is 22, 23, 21, 21, 22, somewhere around 22 only everyone is. Already you're like dead people. Huh? Put some more energy. Be more enthusiastic. You're just, blossoming. Already your guys are having the depressed faces. After May 28th, you put this face, there is a reason. Before May 28th, if you put this face, anyways, I should do my job, whether it is people who are alive or dead. I have to keep beating you guys. Okay. Now, sovereign and commercial functions are there. Right? Okay, I was speaking about NTPC. Now, for example, National Thermal Power Corporation, what does it do? It has a thermal power plant, isn't it? So, what it does, it converts it into electricity. Okay, electricity, again, you'll get confused. I'll take some other. Steel Authority of India, SAIL. Now, SAIL manufactures steel, but see, that is not a sovereign function of the state. You have other private players who are doing that. You have Tata Steel who are doing that. Isn't it? Vizag Steel is there, that's a government run. Okay, look. So you have private players also, and government is getting into doing business. On those businesses, definitely the state can impose taxes. Right? The same vice versa. If the state gets into doing business, the center can impose taxes. You're getting the point? Just because they're state sponsored or state run corporations or companies, they can do not escape the taxation. Only the sovereign functions, department based functions, they escape taxation. For example, Ministry of External Affairs, they also collect revenue for passport printing. If you go and make your passport, 1,600, 2,000 rupees. Passports are expensive in India, isn't it? No one has made a passport yet. Only one person has made. Only one person has plans to travel outside India. 2, 3, good. Others are made in India, stay in India, die in India. Huh? Okay. So in these sovereign functions, you cannot levy taxes. Simple. Now, let us get on to the financial relations. How the financial relations go about with respect to tax-based revenues. Now, see, it's a good thing that GST has been passed for UPSC students. Why, you know, before GST was passed, there was so much of taxes and there was so much of conditions. Reading this interstate financial relations was a huge headache, because sales tax, you have central sales tax, you have state sales tax, everything had different conditions. You had almost 10 to 12 ways. Center will collect, state will take it, state will collect, center will take it. Center will levy, state will collect and enjoy it. Center will levy, state will collect it, will give to the central. All this, and which all taxes used to come in that? Questions used to come like that. Because of GST, you have only 4 or 5 varieties now. GST has almost subsumed all the taxes. Right? Now, the first type, where center levies, state collects and enjoys. State collects and enjoys with pleasure. Right? So you have, this is Article 268. Now, you have stamp duties for this. Stamp duties on financial instruments. Financial instruments like bills of exchange, checks, promissory notes, all this will be covered in economics. What are these? Promissory notes, bills of exchange, check, anyway you guys know. Right? So there are basically financial instruments. On financial instrument, the stamp duties levied will be by the center. The center will set the rate. The state will collect it and enjoy. Right? Next. Center levies and collects. State gets the revenue. Center does all the hard work and state masti karta hai. So, you know, everyone knows about GST. Everyone knows about GST. goods and service tax. It's a destination based taxation. Everyone knows what's a destination based taxation? Destination based taxation. Most of you guys are from BCom, right? So you should be ready to tell me what is a destination based taxation. What is a destination based taxation? The ultimate consumer pays the tax. Good. Okay, now let me create a scenario. Suppose I want a website done. I have a company in Bangalore. I want one website done. I'll request a company in Hyderabad to get me a website done. Now they'll raise a GST when the bill is done. Now the GST is collected by whom? Center. Because since two states are involved, GST is collected by the center. And who gets that GST? Karnataka or Telangana? Telangana gets the GST. But you're telling it's a destination based tax, consumption based tax. Who is consuming the service? Karnataka. Then who should get the GST? Who should get the GST? Confusing? Confusing? All accountants are sitting over here, and if you get confused. See, service, where is it getting consumed ultimately? In Karnataka. Finally, the website is going for Karnataka. He is the one who is going to pay. Payment is going to happen in Bangalore. So the GST goes to Karnataka. That is why, before India government came into power, the biggest opponent of GST was the current Prime Minister, Modi. He was the biggest opponent of GST before he became the Prime Minister, when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat. Because Gujarat produces lots of goods. It's a manufacturing hub, Gujarat. And now when you say destination-based taxation, they lost their revenue. Just because, see, they have got all the goods set up and now they can't get the revenue from that. Other states which are consuming, where more consumption is there, where more Ayashi is there, that state is becoming rich. You're understanding? So what happens to investment? All this starts to suffer. The state government has no incentive to encourage companies to come and set it up. The state government gets into more encouraging citizens to spend. If they spend more only, they'll get revenue. If they set up factories and plants, they're not going to get revenue. That's why before Modi became Prime Minister, he was the biggest obstacle for GST. 2012, 2013, when the Congress were trying to pass the GST, didn't allow it. After 2014, 2016, it got passed. He became the biggest proponent afterwards. That is why in GST, the problem with GST, one of the problems is this. It doesn't incentivize manufacturing. It doesn't incentivize the state to encourage manufacturing. The state is going to lose out on a lot of revenue when you go with GST. That's what has happened. That is why. Now, this happens in this case, and India is a service-based economy, and this happens a lot, where state levies and collects. State levies and collects, and then it gives it to the respective state, especially IGST, that happens. No, that goes to the center, IGST. Sorry, CGST and IGST, yes, that goes to the state. To which respective state it goes, the center gives it. Yeah. Now these funds that they collect, they are not deposited in the consolidated fund of India. They are not a component of consolidated fund of India. Be very clear. Now, third one. Third one, there is a component called as surcharge. What is a surcharge? What is a surcharge? What is a cess? Tax. Surcharge is a tax. It's a tax on tax. And cess? Tax on tax on tax. Government can keep taxing you. So surcharge basically, as she told, it's a tax on tax. In basic simple terms, see, for example, you have 100 rupees and there's a 10% taxation for you. You have to pay 10 rupees tax extra, right? You have earned, sorry, I didn't get you. Yes, on this 10 again, you put a tax, you put a surcharge. So again, there might be a, tax on tax surcharge of 5% if I say. How much is 5% of 10 rupees? 0.5 paisa. Others, where are you? CSAT. Then in CSAT, you'll have to sit and say, Srinivasa Govinda. Huh? CSAT also, you should be better prepared, my friends. Last year, CSAT was the one which killed many veterans. Many people who were consistently clearing prelims couldn't clear because of CSAT. Engineers faced it difficult to get 65, 66. You should be very, very careful with CSAT. You should not neglect it. CSAT is done. You have to start. I've started. Be very, very confident about CSAT. After, I even had a student who got 140 in paper 1 and 40 in paper 2. Gone. 1 year of efforts is gone, and only because he couldn't even pass the paper, CSAT. You should be very, very careful with CSAT. English language, everything you need to improve. You should make a strategy. People who are weak in English, focus on maths. You should focus on maths. You should try to answer all the mathematical questions first. Who are weak in English, who feel they are weak in English. People who are strong in English, go ahead and finish off English questions. And who are weak in mathematics, I don't know what to tell them. God should only save you. It's very costly. Don't neglect CSAT. Many people, last time it was a disaster. And the level of CSAT is growing. They have started asking some CAT questions. Questions which appear in CAT is coming in with respect to quants. And questions which come in GMAT is coming with respect to verbal. Don't neglect that. Anyway, coming back to this. So in surcharge, see, the constitution clearly states with respect to surcharge, only the center can levy surcharge. The state cannot levy surcharge. Only the center can levy a surcharge. Right? The state cannot levy. And the center can levy surcharge even on state taxes. Remember this. Center can levy surcharge even on state taxes, provided it gets the assent of the president. I'll come to that part. There is another part where, certain bills can be introduced in the parliament only upon the assent of the president, consent of the president. I'll speak about that. But over here, surcharge can be imposed even on state taxes. Very, very important question. This statement has come many a times. You should know about this. Now, because of the 80th constitutional amendment, after the 80th constitutional amendment, where the 10th Financial Commission, they gave a recommendation that the revenue that the center is earning, the net proceeds of taxes that the center is earning, they recommended certain portion should be given to the states. And upon 80th constitutional amendment, this has been operationalized. 80th constitutional amendment recommended for 29% of the proceeds of taxes levied and collected by the center but distributed to the states. See, until now what we saw? Sorry. Yes. Levies, collects, and shares. It doesn't give away completely, and shares. In that, what we discussed is it gives away completely. Here, it shares with the state. After the 80th constitutional amendment, this has been operationalized. 29% was there. Now Finance Commission keeps regularly giving the recommendation. 14th Finance Commission has given the recommendation to increase it to 42%. Currently it is 42%, right? Of the net proceeds of taxes that they collect, the center has to share 42% with the states, right? Surcharge, center levies and collects. In case, see, in surcharge there is always a chance that state might have to collect it and the center will give. This has all kinds of flexibility dependent on the tax on which they are putting this tax, right? Now, this is done. One second. Next, just check whether I've covered. Yes, almost all. Okay, grants in aid is left. So those were with respect to taxation and how the resources would get distributed. See, when you speak about revenue, you have tax and non-tax, right? Revenue doesn't mean only through taxation. You can even generate revenue from non-tax resources. How? Can you tell any non-tax based resources? Non-tax based revenue that the center or the state can earn? See, whatever subjects have been mentioned in the central list and the state list. If there's a central government, like for example, you might be taking for the state government irrigation. Irrigation, there's a charge. How much amount of water they have released. They collect the money. They do tend to collect the money. In some states, not in every state. In many states, I know irrigation is free. The canals they do collect the money from the farmers who use the water. It is not given freely. It is not given freely, not in all states. I don't know how it's happening in Telangana and Andhra. It's given freely to the farmers. Water is given freely to the farmers. Anyone from farming community? He. Okay. I thought he's pointing to the next person. Anyone from farming community? No one. All from metro city. Urban breeds. No one is from farming. One person is there. From where? Yeah, from AP. From which district? Guntur. You have irrigation over there? Do you know like whether they charge on irrigation? You don't know. They give subsidy. Okay. That means there's a charge. See, what do you mean by a subsidy? What is a subsidy? The government will pay for it. It's not free. Government will pay for it. For the people, it is they don't have to pay for it. Someone has to pay finally. So, non-tax revenues are in those ways. For example, iron mines, all this, whatever steel you get, the government can give it away. Or the granites, marbles and granites, mountains mining, whatever they earn from it. All these are non-tax revenue. They are not taxing that revenue. They are getting that. When resources are tapped, natural resources are tapped, you generally go for, it's a revenue. You are selling it off, isn't it? Government, when they have this, when they find iron mines, they auction it, isn't it? Doesn't the government auction it? What is that revenue? Is it a tax-based revenue? It's a non-tax revenue, right? Simple tax revenue means the government will have to levy some charge on it. This is, they are supplying goods or services. Now, coming to grants in aid, you have two types of grants in aid: statutory and discretionary. Statutory is covered under Article 275, recommended by Finance Commission. Right? Recommended by Finance Commission. Now, statutory grants are given, statutory grants or grants in aid is given to those states, which are in need of those finances. See, you can't expect every state to become self-sufficient. You can't expect every state. For example, you take the states like Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand. They don't have the capacity to become self-sufficient, and there is regular expenditure because those are areas where frequently disasters keep happening, especially landslides, snow, blizzards. All this keep happening in these high terrain mountains, mountain states. For example, in Himachal Pradesh, you find that frequently if you become an IAS officer, we always, our friends laugh about this. People who have become IAS officers in Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. How the posting happens is, once you become an SDM, they'll give you 1 mountain. You become DC, 3 mountains. If you become divisional collectorate, 5 mountains. Next position, 7 mountains. Number of mountains keep increasing, but your work doesn't change. You have to keep going to the area where landslides occur. You have to sit there. You have to see that the landslides are cleared and then go back. The presence of IAS officers is very, very essential whenever landslides occur. That is why if you get posted in Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand as IAS, no use. You'll be only clearing debris. You can't do any much of developmental activities. You can't bring a revolution that is there in your brain. Especially if you get posted in Sikkim, gone, life is gone. People don't want development. Whatever you go and tell, they'll tell, I don't want. They are happy. They don't want employment. People in Sikkim, they are happy. They are peaceful. They'll grow what they want. They'll eat. They'll live happily. If you see a IAS officer's office in Sikkim, it's like in this primary school teacher's room. One desk, that's all. So you should get into good states. For good states, you have to study well. Else, if you get in the last ranks, then you'll be placed in any of these states. No, you can enjoy. Sikkim and all, if you get salary nicely, you'll get. There is no corruption also in that state. No one wants to do business also in that state. You can't get any money. Only thing is enjoy the cold weather. Peaceful, good air, oxygen you'll get. That's all. Right? Okay, anyway, coming back to this. So now what happens is, in these states where, they cannot generate finances to maintain themselves, the center starts giving statutory grants. They give grants in aid to these states. It is recommended by the Finance Commission, where they have to give these particular grants so that the financial machinery keeps working. Right? This is statutory grants, and generally it is recommended by the Finance Commission. For the states in need, it is not necessary that all the states get it. It's not necessary that all the states get it. Only those states recommended by the Finance Commission. Else you will find that, many states keep asking the center, give us grants, give us grants. I need to conduct this festival, I need to conduct that festival. And nowadays, elections are also becoming very expensive. Some election happened, right? Here in by-election happened in Telangana. 10 grams of gold was given. Yeah, for per person, 1 tola of gold was given, right? Bar is rising now. Which was the district which had that? Huh? Munguru. Yes. 10 grams of gold. Anyone from Munguru? Got 10 grams of gold? You got? You didn't get. You got or you didn't get? Huh? You you didn't get. You didn't go to ask. They cheated you. They didn't distribute gold. Then how did it come in newspapers? Fake news. No, 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 no. It was not fake news. He didn't get, that's why he's telling fake. See, nowadays elections are going to become more and more expensive. So you should also start demanding. How long you'll demand 500 rupees, 1000 rupees? They are ready to give 10 grams of gold. Isn't it? So coming back, expenses are increasing for the political parties. Definitely they'll go and ask the central only, give us money, give us money. See now Mamata Banerjee, she told some Mela is there, give me money, how do I conduct the Mela? West Bengal. So every festival is becoming a national festival now. They need money. They're telling it's a national festival, give me money. Isn't it? So statutory grants are generally given for developmental activities and it is again recommended by the Finance Commission. Now when you come to discretionary grants, it can be given by the center on states for any public purpose. For any public purpose. The center or the state can give discretionary grants. It is covered under Article 282. Previously, you had the Planning Commission which used to give this. Previously, you had the Planning Commission which used to decide who would get how much grants. Right? Now, it is left to the government. Finance Ministry is taking care of this. But the center and the states both can give this. And even the Finance Commission can recommend a part of the grants that they recommend for local bodies. Finance Commission recommends a particular grant, performance grants, to local body which comes under discretionary grants. That is again dependent on the center and state to give it to the local bodies. If there is performance, they will give. Generally what happens is, Finance Commission when it recommends grants for the local bodies, they give it in the ratio of 80:20, 90:10. 80% the center has to give, 20% only if the local bodies are performing. Only then they will give that amount. Right? So, the 20% is again dependent on the center or the state to give. If they feel that the local bodies are performing, they can give discretionary grants. Clear? Clear? All clear? All clear? Okay. Let's move on to the next one. Borrowing. Quality is googly only. See, the conditions are building. By the end of this week, you'll be cursing me, I know. I'll give more and more conditions like this. If this happens, this will happen, this happens, this happens. You have to remember that. Only with revision it will come. There is no other solution. How much ever crying faces you put, there is no other solution. You have entered UPSC. You have entered Chakravyuha. You have entered the Chakravyuha. There are only two ways you can come out of it. Either as Abhimanyu or either as Arjuna. Abhimanyu, Veera Marana. Most of them become Abhimanyus only, Veera Marana in this exam. Only limited people become Arjunas. Let's see what you guys become. Now coming to borrowing, center and state. Now when you take the case of center, see, they can borrow inside as well as outside the country. They can borrow within the country or outside the country, right? And they need to take the permission of the parliament when they're going for borrowing, because whatever they borrow comes and falls into the consolidated fund. Any amount of money entering the consolidated fund of India, you need parliamentary approval. And even in your money bill, it has been mentioned, right? Article 110. One of the provisions is debt management. Fourth or fifth provision. What are the 6 provisions that have been mentioned in Article 110? You should remember all the 6. They've asked directly, UPSC. What are the provisions mentioned in Article 110 in the money bill? On which all conditions can you frame a money bill? There are 6 conditions that have been mentioned. You should be aware of all the 6 conditions. In that, 4th condition is debt management. If the central government wants to raise any debt, you need to take the permission of the parliament. You need to raise a money bill. Now, center can borrow inside or outside. State only inside, no outside. Right? State doesn't have the permission to borrow outside the country. Now, with respect to state, there is a scenario that you need to remember. In case of debt, if the state has taken a debt from the center, suppose center has given a loan to state. Center has given a loan to state, and now the state wants to raise a fresh loan, but not with the center, with someone else. They still need to take permission of the center. Then they have to take permission of center to raise new loan. This condition is applicable. This condition is applicable only if the state has taken a loan from the center. Suppose the state has not taken any loan, or they have paid back the loans to the center, then the state is independent to take loans from anyone else. They don't need to report it to the center that they are raising loans from any other person. But if they have taken a loan from the center, they need to report it. And only upon center's approval they can take a loan. Especially when elections come, right? The state wants more loans. That time center will, it happens in, it will happen in TRS. This, I think this year you have elections, right? This year or next year? This, I heard it is probably this year, November or December. December they are planning. December, here and even in Madhya Pradesh. Elections in Telangana and Madhya Pradesh is supposed to be held. This is what I got the news. I don't know. You guys are the ones who are reading newspaper daily. This year. This year a lot of elections are there. So now elections are coming. Government wants to raise money, but they have taken a loan from the center. The center will say no. I know what you're going to do with that money. Right? You will increase 10 grams to 15 grams. Anyway, this is with respect to borrowings. Clear? Clear? This has been asked in mains. This part has been asked in mains. They have put this like that's why I stated this. This part has been asked in mains. You should be aware of this. Clear? Okay. Now moving on to the next aspect, where presidential assent is required. Go to the next aspect. Before a bill is introduced in the parliament, you need presidential assent. What type of bills do you need presidential assent before the bill is introduced into the parliament? There are 4 types. First one, when the parliament wants to change the definition of agricultural income. When the parliament tries to change the definition of agricultural income, when the parliament tries to change the definition of agricultural income, then it initially needs the presidential assent. Right? Second one, if the bill pertains to any tax or revenue associated with the state, write this. State. If the bill pertains to any tax or revenue associated with the state. You guys understand the difference between this state and this state, right? What is the difference? What is the difference between this state and this state? Second one is a federal unit. First one is a yes. So when you write state with a capital S, it means, what does it mean? It means it's speaking about the setup, the political, the executive and the judicial setup all together consistently is called as the state, capital S. This is a federal unit, small s. While writing in your mains, you should be clear. When you write capital S, you are speaking about the complete setup, complete legislative, administrative and judicial machinery. When you write with a small s, you are speaking about a federal unit. Right? Another 20 minutes, bear with me. We'll start with emergency and we'll live in urgency. No, front rows are fine. Back rows are almost asleep. So, anyway, coming back to this, tax or revenue associated with the state. Now, next, thirdly, on the principles of distribution. So, if the bill pertains to the principles of distribution of revenue to the states, if the bill pertains to the principles of distribution of revenue to the state, then you have to again get the presidential assent, right? Fourth one, for surcharge on any state tax. We discussed this already. For surcharge on any state tax, you need presidential assent. Clear? Such happy faces, right? Such happy faces. It's good many people are even wearing masks. I can't even make out what they're doing. Right? Okay. So with this, we are ending center state financial relations. Any doubts in this? Any doubts in this? No doubts? No doubts. Tomorrow I'll ask question. I know today you guys will go and revise. Very obedient students. Anyway, moving on to the next one. We will start with emergency. We'll start with emergency. Right? Exhausted? Yes, I can see. How many hours of class you are having? 5 hours of class per day? How many hours? When does your class start? 8:30. 8:30 to 10, 10:30, 10:45, 10:30. And my class starts somewhere around 10:45 to 11 between that. And I'll take it up still 1:30, 1:45. You're having optional class. At what time? 2 to 5. Vare vah. Vare vah. And afterwards, you'll go home and revise. Huh? Very studious students. You'll go home and revise, or you'll go home and sleep exhausted. Sometimes revise, sometimes exhaustion. Wow, I'm jealous of your life. I'm not jealous. I'm feeling very sad about your life. Very, you know, what do you say, exhausting life right now. Good. UPSC, you can't help. You can't help. At least put that in status. Let your cousins see what you're doing. As they'll be thinking, Arey, what that fellow is doing, God knows. Right? You know what happens before first attempt is given? Most of you people, generally what happens is most of the aspirants, what they do, they go and they advertise it to their cousins. I'm doing UPSC. I'm doing UPSC. They give it in such a way, like the build-up is given in such a way that you'll become IAS in the first attempt itself. Right? Everyone expects that. Everyone is fine. But after first prelims happen, the cousins will be waiting. Beta, first you finish prelims and come. After first prelims results come, they'll try to find you. You will nowhere to be seen. Suddenly, they'll find you that you have taken a library room. You're sitting there. You're not coming home for any festivals, functions. Second attempt happens. Then even if you don't clear prelims in second attempt, gone. Third attempt, you won't have face to show to your cousins. If you go to your cousins, they'll start telling, "Hey, what? You're not able to clear prelims. You didn't start only." All kinds of pressures will start. Fourth attempt, though, you won't visit your home only. You'll only be found somewhere in Ashok Nagar. Be careful, be careful. That's why don't do self-dabba in front of cousins. It'll come back to hit you. Don't tell them too much about UPSC. Because I know now you guys are filled with knowledge. You want to impart knowledge. Vidyadana Sarvadana Pradhanam. Right? You want to do charity to everyone with your knowledge. Huh? Don't do that. It will come back to bite you. Be silent. Do your work. Just go about with your work. Don't tell even your parents what you are doing. Only with respect to studies. Not with respect to anything else. Right? Then you don't go and tell. Sir told not to tell you. Just be focused on studies. Go about every day. At least keep a measure. See, be realistic. Be realistic. If you are having such a tough timetable, be realistic. After you go home, take a break, sleep, refresh yourself, then sit back to study, revise for the day. You're having from Monday to Saturday? Sunday also you have. Optional classes you're having daily. No. This week you're having daily. Regularly, like in a week, how many classes are there for optional? 4 optional classes. So that means 3 days you get. So you plan yourself well. See, good planning always leads to good results. I'm seriously telling this. If you don't plan yourself well, if you ask me, how are you going to crack May 28th? Have you guys made a plan? Have you guys made a plan for May 28th? How you are going to cover? How many times revision? See, because you're spending so much of time in classes, you're putting so much of efforts, you shouldn't go for a waste. At least give a fair attempt. Give a good attempt. Don't give a discouraging attempt for yourself. Don't cheat yourself. Simple. Don't cheat yourself. You're not cheating anyone else, you'll cheat yourself. If you don't do it wholeheartedly. Do something wholeheartedly. I know this tiring, this is fine. Yawning in the class, sleeping in the class, everything is fine. Finally, are you working for your dream? Are you working for your dream? That is very important. Putting efforts is very, very difficult. I want too much of motivation, Gyan. But telling, plan for May 28th. Put a plan. And put one long-term plan. Put one long-term plan. Don't put day-to-day plan also. I would always suggest students to go with a 3-day plan. In next 3 days, what I'll cover. Put a plan and try to cover in the 3 days. Definitely you won't finish. I'll write and give you all your plans will keep failing. All your plans will fail. But at least you'll come up to 50 to 60%. Somewhere on the 3rd day, I know 2 days you'll relax. 3rd day, last moment, okay, I have to do something for yourself. You'll start doing it. At least 40-50% you'll cover. Go with micro, don't go for day-to-day planning. impossible. You will never cover that. You are human beings, not machines. 3-day plans, plan, and then try to cover. If you don't plan for May 28th, suddenly May comes and you'll be in a shock. I don't know anything, others are doing so many things. You shouldn't get into the shock. Especially now results will be coming out in another month. That results will pump you up. Right? Definitely results will pump you up. Many people getting first rank again in newspapers, their photos, big photos, everything will come. Topper sessions, this, that, everything they'll start calling. Motivation will come. But again, don't get deviated from your plans. Plan well, then everything happens. You know, there are two ways of running anything. There is one American way we tell, and there is another Japanese way. Right? The Japanese, you know, when American, I'll give you the example of Ford. What happened is Ford, while they were designing cars, their cars always used to close with a sound. And to rectify that sound, they did so many alterations. No, it took them almost 4-5 years to rectify that sound, that the sound doesn't come. But when they went to Japan, they never had the problem. Toyota, they initially took 3 to 4 years in putting that plan of ensuring that there is no fault in the car. Their plan was completely, tight locked. And then they started production. They never had an issue. Whereas in US, Ford, what happened is Ford cars didn't click in Japan because of this. Toyota cars were made with excellence. They started with excellence. They made it with excellence because planning was excellent. Whereas America, they failed in Japan because the car kept making sound and people frequently kept complaining about that. And finally, when they rectified it, there were no buyers. This is just an example I'm giving you, but see, the way you prepare should be like that. Follow the Japanese way. Don't follow the American way, haphazard way. Do start something, plan something, and do accordingly. Don't just jump into it. Anyway, coming back to emergency. Now, I'll start with national emergency. Some basics I'll cover. There are 3 types of emergency. National, President's rule, and financial emergency. Right? We will begin with the first one, national emergency. See, what do you mean by national emergency? If there is a situation that has arisen to the country where governance cannot be followed according to constitution and laws, and it threatens the very unity and integrity of the country, you go with a national emergency. National emergency is declared on the grounds: 1, war; 2, external aggression; 3rd one, armed rebellion. Now, when you start with the war, or let's say, when you see these 2 terms, war and external aggression is when it happens on the outside. Like when there is threat from the outside, we find that national emergency is declared on these grounds. We have declared this 3 times. When all? 3 or 4 times? 4 times? 3 times? 3 times? Which are the 3 times? 2 times with? No, I'm asking only war and external aggression. How many times we have declared emergency with respect to war and external aggression? 3 times. 62, 65, 71. Right? And armed rebellion. See, this word armed rebellion was added with 44th constitutional amendment. Before, it was internal disturbances. Before it was internal disturbances. Now we call it as armed rebellion. The 1975 emergency was declared on the ground of internal disturbances. Which case started this? Which Supreme Court case started this? Raj Narain versus Indira Gandhi. What happened exactly? See, Indira Gandhi, she had used government machinery in campaigning. Like she had used government vehicles, all these things while she was campaigning for elections. Right? And Raj Narain filed a case in the constituency of Allahabad, the High Court of Allahabad. He filed a case to disqualify the Prime Minister. And the High Court gave the verdict, yes, she is to be disqualified because she has used government machinery for for political campaigning. Political campaigning, you have to use political party money, especially star campaigner. What's the amount they have given for star campaigner? 70 lakh. He has to campaign within a limit of 70 lakhs. Maximum 70 lakhs. How much is Modi spending on his campaigns? Not even 70 crores is also less. BJP is one of the most richest bodies in India. Political party corpus is somewhere around 84,000 crores. Disposal. The BJP party, their political funding is around 84,000 crores. They're sitting on that. Very rich body. And they're using it. Anyways, coming to this instance, what happened in that particular emergencies? She declared emergency unilaterally, like without asking anyone. When the court case came, immediately that night she signed an order and sent it to the president that there is a internal disturbance that has happened. Internally, country is disturbing me, so I want an emergency. Why there was why she had to resort to this is they were taking many steps which were more dictatorial. Like, the example I'll give you, there was this family planning issue. At that time, now we don't call it as family planning, we call it as family welfare policy. That time they had started with family planning, whereby the 2-kid policy was enforced strictly. What they started doing is, people who had 2 kids, they started taking them and sterilizing. So, vans would come to villages, like how dog vans go and catch dogs. Right? The same way they would go. Yes, that's what happened. People would run away when the vans would come. They would run behind people, catch them, put them in the vans, take them to mass sterilization camps and sterilize them. All this started happening. And sadly, even people who were not married got sterilized. Even before marriage, they got sterilized, no kids for them. All this happened during those times. That's why there was, people were very upset with the government. They wanted to bring that 2-child policy, but when they did all this, they were gaining hatred. And 1974-75, you even had El Nino. Everyone knows what's El Nino, right? And there was no monsoon. So it was a very, very difficult situation. 1973, you had Smiling Buddha, Pokhran 1 blast. US had imposed sanctions. 1972, just you had, finished the war. You were settling 1971-72. So it was a very, very precarious situation for the country. And that time when all this was happening, she is like, I'm getting internally disturbed, put emergency. So she imposed emergency, night 2 o'clock, without informing anyone in the cabinet or council of ministers nor the parliament. Emergency was imposed. Indians woke up to emergency. They didn't even know emergency was imposed. Now, because of that, they have changed the word internal disturbances to armed rebellion. Now, 2 minutes. I'll leave you guys out. War and external aggression is called as external emergency, and armed rebellion is considered as internal emergency. Right? War and external aggression is external emergency. Armed rebellion is internal emergency. We'll begin with how emergency starts from tomorrow? Tomorrow? Or shall I finish it off? I can't finish in 10 minutes also. It will take half an hour. One emergency will take almost half an hour. They're very important. Every year, one prelims question is coming on emergency. One prelims question is definitely coming on emergency. And every 2 years, one question is coming in mains on emergency. Very important topic. You should not miss out on it. Anyone has any doubts? Tomorrow you'll ask. Go refresh yourself, energize yourself. I know 2 o'clock here. Everyone has an optional class. Which optional? Geography. All the optionals are all the best. Enjoy. Again, after, see, this is the last education phase you are going to have. Enjoy it. After this, you are never going to enter classrooms. You are never going to enter classrooms. This is the last time. Unless and until you're, you have too much of money and you want to again pay for foundation course, you can. But I don't think you guys will do that. One suffering is enough. So enjoy. Have a good day. After 5 o'clock, do something fun today. Pulwama attack. Right? Thank you.